This is... What? This is boring.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. So we are not just living in the Multiverse Saga of the MCU, we are living in the Multiverse Saga of movies in general. The multiverse is everywhere, but why? I think understanding our culture's obsession with the multiverse tells us a lot about the media we consume, which also tells us a lot about ourselves, and it can also tell us about the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So let's take a closer look at why multiversal storytelling has been so popular as of late, and why it's been so hit and miss, and how this genre has secretly actually been around for decades. Now, the multiverse is nothing new. It's been featured in comics, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Mr. Destiny, Roseanne, Fringe, Community, and even the classic Christmas movie It's a Wonderful Life. Now, just say right now? Yeah, the writer Scott Roseanne pointed out that It's a Wonderful Life is the first multiversal film, and it's the perfect example of what makes these kind of stories unique. It's a Wonderful Life explores the concepts of alternate realities, parallel universes, and how choices in one's own existence can drastically change life as we know it. So to understand why we're living in this multiverse age, we have to answer some questions. What is so appealing about the multiverse in the first place? Why do we as humans wonder and dream about those parallel realities? See, things like nostalgia, second chances, do-overs, and what-ifs are something that we all ponder late at night when we're trying to fall asleep. What if I'd studied a different major? What if my preferred political candidate had won? What if someone close to me hadn't passed away? What would my life look like? And all of those what-ifs essentially boil down to the same question. What if, somewhere out there, there's a version of me who's happier? Wow, that got heavy. Well, I mean, think about it, buddy. The past, 8 to 10 years of real life haven't exactly felt like we're living on the main timeline.
What do you mean?
Well, okay, like a celebrity reality show host became president. We had a global pandemic straight from a movie. The Capitol was invaded by an extremist mob. The government is actually acknowledging the existence of UFOs. Not to mention Prince, David Bowie, Harambe. It's weird, man. It's so weird. I can't even...
Okay, I'm convinced. Call the TVA. Let's prune this sucker. I don't want to exist anymore.
Hold on. Don't get me wrong. Hasn't been all bad. But I do think there's a large number of people who are finding themselves looking back at what they view as simpler times. Look, regardless of your political party, everybody seems to be unhappy right now. So the one thing that everybody can agree on is that we're all wondering,
what if?
So this question, what if, is the central conceit of last year's Best Picture winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once. That film demonstrated that the multiverse could be an exceptional storytelling tool to explore character. The film centers around the main character, Evelyn, wondering what could she have done with her life. And her daughter's encounter with the multiverse makes her embrace nihilism. In other words, what's the point of doing anything with your life? And the movie brilliantly fuses these two points of view together so that mother and daughter can come to an understanding. But now, looking at the multiversal mess of The Flash and what the MCU's becoming, it makes me wonder, what went wrong here? Have movies taken this concept too far?
I may have gone too far in a few places.
To some fans, the multiverse once felt like a fun new way to tell stories on an even grander scale, but it's now becoming yet another Hollywood gimmick that audiences are getting tired of.
Everyone's got a gimmick now.
In film, we've always understood the concept of different cinematic universes. For example, audiences have always understood that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland are all Peter Parker and Spider-Man. We also understand that each are the reimagining of a character that exists separately from one another, well, at least until now.
Peter!
Yeah? Oh, sorry. Did you mean?
And we never expect for Rocky to show up in a Rambo movie. Those are two different cinematic universes. So the introduction of multiversal storytelling makes anything possible in films. All three Peters Parker can swing around together. Patrick Stewart's Professor X can meet Doctor Strange. Scott Lang can be a head in a jar in a zombie apocalypse.
I know what you're thinking. I've lost weight. Thank you for noticing. But don't worry, I'm not going to let it go to my head.
Rambo can shoot Rocky in the face. And all of that is really cool and a lot of fun. But I think there's an even deeper reason why the multiverse appeals to so many people. There is, of course, the sense of nostalgia you get when you see your childhood hero return to the big screen. But audiences also have an admiration for second chances.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Everyone deserves a second chance.
So the multiverse is being done a lot. We have Loki, No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, Everything Everywhere, Quantumania, The Flash. Not to mention the Arrowverse has been doing the multiverse for years. So it is understandable that for some, the novelty of the multiverse is starting to wear off. And that is a problem for Marvel in particular. As of right now, we are still 4 years away from the multiversal extravaganza Avengers Secret Wars. But look, even though the novelty of multiverse movies is starting to wear off, that doesn't mean they can't still be great. See, I don't think that audiences are necessarily fatigued by the multiverse. It's more like they're just tired of frequent bad storytelling. No Way Home was great, but not because it was a multiverse movie. The multiverse provided some high points.
I stopped pulling my punches. I got rageful. I got bitter.
But the real heart of the film was this.
Me.
May. What are you doing, May? Please, will you just wake up and talk to me, please?
Multiverse of Madness was very divisive, and fans went way overhyped with their expectations. Quantumania is the second lowest rated MCU movie to date, and The Flash was an unmitigated disaster.
Okay, what the
But it's not just the multiverse and time travel movies in the superhero genre that aren't performing well. Black Adam, Shazam 2, Thor Love and Thunder, The Eternals, these are all recent Marvel and DC projects that weren't received well by audiences, but they had nothing to do with the multiverse. So should we really be blaming the multiverse for Marvel and DC's recent failures? Well, in order to answer this question, we're going to have to take a look back at this paradigm shift that preceded the introduction of multiversal storytelling, and that is the cinematic universe. For years, we have heard about superhero fatigue and how it's coming any day now. Yet, for more than 20 years, comic book films have been killing it at the box office and are regularly breaking their own massive records film after film after film. Many have speculated that with the market being so oversaturated with superhero content that audiences would eventually become disinterested. And that's not a crazy thing to expect. It's within reason to assume that if the same thing is done time and time again, and even if it's done well, eventually it's going to get stale. But there's one simple key to assure that doesn't happen.
Make good movies.
Yes, and that is exactly what Marvel Studios did in 2012 with the Avengers. See, superhero films had been all the rage for the past decade, with franchises like X-Men, Spider-Man, Dark Knight.
Fantastic Four?
No. But before anyone could even think to ask if this whole superhero thing was getting a little old, Marvel changed everything. They did a crossover movie, something rarely seen before, especially on this scale. It had become pretty commonplace that after a successful superhero franchise had its trilogy, it would either end, do prequels, or get rebooted entirely. But Marvel started something new, an interconnected story that reached far beyond that of the standard trilogy structure, laying the groundwork for stories that would span over a decade into not one, but two giant culmination films. Others tried to duplicate the Marvel formula, but it just didn't work.
It's meant to wind like a river.
I'm still figuring this place out, but I think a bunch of guys like us should team up. Could do some good.
Intriguing.
But you know, why didn't the DC Extended Universe work? I mean, DC is home to 3 of the 4 most popular superheroes on the planet. Did that no longer matter because of superhero fatigue? No, it wasn't superhero fatigue or even shared universe fatigue. It was because they rushed it. In order for any franchise to work and be successful, the content itself has to be good. And to be good, it has to be focused. DC approached their universe differently than Marvel. Rather than trying to unite all their IP across the big and small screens, they had separate stories. The Arrowverse existed as its own thing. The Joker movie did its own thing. The Arrowverse introduced the idea of live-action superhero multiverse before anyone else when Flash visited Kara's Earth. But then DC made the crucial jump into using the multiverse as an IP strategy.
What's IP?
Intellectual property. Warner Brothers tried to turn the DC Extended Universe into the DC Extended Multiverse. Like, I remember reading an interview in a 2021 Variety article with Warner's president Ann Sarnoff, where she kept hitting that point over and over, that they weren't building a universe, they were building an extended multiverse. This was a way of telling people, hey, if you don't like this Batman, don't worry, there's a different Batman, and they all count. Don't worry, we're not replacing your Superman, he's still one of the many Supermen in existence. Now, since the inception of the MCU in 2008, Warner Brothers had created some incredible programming. The Arrowverse, Harley Quinn, Doom Patrol, the Batman, Joker, but these all did not take place in the same cinematic universe. They were not, as the MCU says, all connected. This extended multiverse scheme was Warner Brothers' way of trying to artificially connect their IP so they would have the feeling of a cinematic universe without doing the actual legwork of building a cinematic universe. Basically, they tried to have their cake and eat it too.
I'm not allowed to eat cake because it'll kill me.
Yeah, seriously, it's best you just stay away from all cake. The MCU, on the other hand, made every movie feel important in their universe, or at least they used to. Whereas DC, in the words of James Gunn in an IndieWire interview, said, no one was minding the mint. They were just giving away IP like they were party favors to any creators who smiled at them. It's this major lack of focus and lack of quality that caused the DC Extended Universe to fail. So let's talk about the greatest failure of the DCEU, The Flash. It was a multiverse movie that featured the return of Michael Keaton as Batman. Had you asked me a few years ago what that movie would make, I would have said $1 billion, easy, but it didn't even come close. In fact, The Flash has been the biggest flop in mainstream comic book movie history. And if you think about it, The Flash isn't really a multiverse movie anyways. It's a time travel movie that throws in the multiverse at the end. It's not like The Flash travels to all the different Earths or anything like that. But the multiverse ending to The Flash was ugly, confusing, and it's an example of the crass way that corporations are using the multiverse to combine their IP instead of using the multiverse to tell a compelling story. And it doesn't help that they use questionable CGI to raise actors from the grave, especially poor George Reeves, who hated playing Superman because the character haunted him for the rest of his way too short life. Like, I enjoyed the Nicolas Cage cameo and the Adam West stuff, even Christopher Reeve, but if Flash wanted to sell their extended multiverse, then they should have included, you know, like the Batman, Grant Gustin's Flash, the animated Justice League, Harley Quinn, or any of the characters from the excellent CW Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. The main problem with the Flash's multiversal glimpse is that it has no effect at all on its story. Who are these people to bury? How does this glimpse into the multiverse further his journey? It's also confusing to the average viewer, and that's really where the multiverse becomes a losing concept. Unlike the 6 magic rocks that fit onto a glove to make you a god, the multiverse is confusing as hell, resulting in content feeling more like homework than entertainment.
Okay, but in an ontological paradox model, there's not a...
For instance, in Loki, there's one sacred timeline that for some reason has different variants of Loki in it. The number of times on this channel we had to explain to people, yeah, look, here's how the sacred timeline works. It's multiple timelines that are woven together like the threads of a rope. We even use that same B-roll of the rope in every single video. ScreenCrush's editor-in-chief Matt Singer even asked Loki showrunner Michael Waldron this question. He had to clarify it on our webpage. Loki told a great character-driven story, but the multiversal aspects are incredibly confusing for people. Now, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness did a great job of using the multiverse to answer a central question tied to Stephen's story.
Are you happy, Stephen?
But even in that film, the multiverse became a distraction from Stephen's story. As we talked about in this video, the Illuminati cameos really didn't benefit the overall story one bit. And if you were going to tell a story about Doctor Strange and the multiverse, then the Illuminati really should have been filled with variants of Stephen Strange, different paths Stephen could have taken in his life, none of which would have led him to being happy. The point is, we're seeing this over and over again, where multiversal storytelling is used to connect the greater universe and crossovers instead of staying focused on storytelling about people. And now, the multiverse in the MCU has raised the stakes to a ridiculous degree. When Thanos wiped out half the universe with Infinity Stones, we felt that heartache firsthand. It was written on the faces of Okoye, on Tony Stark.
I don't want to go, sir, please. Please, I don't want to go.
Frankly, losing half of all life in the entire infinite universe was something that we can never really wrap our minds around, but it's easy to understand the deaths of these characters that we love. But in Doctor Strange, What If, Loki, and Quantumania, we're introduced to the idea of like entire universes dying wholesale. On the sacred timeline, we see untold trillions of lives get snuffed out as easily as a writer erasing a whiteboard. Destroying an entire universe has as much meaning as throwing a ball of paper in a wastebasket. The multiverse also removes all stakes for your characters. Like if a character dies, you can just pluck the same character from another timeline. This happens numerous times in Rick and Morty, where characters from other universes are basically interchangeable and ultimately replace each other with no one noticing. But I will say that in Spider-Man No Way Home, the presence of the other Peters Parker did serve Tom Holland's Peter Parker's story. They were able to share in his grief.
She told me there was great power
comes great responsibility.
They were able to help him accomplish his goals. And most of all, in a movie where Peter basically isolates himself and says, I'm okay with being alone, these other Peter Parkers told him, you will never be alone. So anyways, all those problems I just talked about are not really to blame on the multiverse itself. You really just need to blame bad storytelling. If audiences feel like there are no stakes in your story, then that is not the fault of the multiverse, that is the fault of the story. The same goes for if a story feels too complicated. Take the excellent Spider-Verse films, for example. Those movies explain how the multiverse works in such a simplistic way that everyone gets. There's no confusion. And the same goes for stakes. In movies like Across the Spider-Verse, you truly feel there are stakes when it comes to the loss of life. Because even though there are an infinite number of Spider-Men, there is only one Miles Morales.
I'm gonna do my own thing.
And I feel like it's important to point out that we are not criticizing the writers here. Everybody has a bad day at the office. And if anything, the finger should really get pointed at the greedy executives who overwork their creatives to raise their stock prices a fraction of a point. With Marvel specifically, there is a lack of direction, or like I said earlier, a lack of focus. Point being, multiverse stories are not bad. In fact, they can be awesome. In the comics, we had the thrill of seeing the Justice Society of America, or The Road Not Taken, and 2015 Secret Wars. But you can't just tell a multiversal story for the sake of seeing cool variants interact. Has to have a purpose. In Loki, him meeting his older and alternate selves teaches him a lesson. Connecting with Sylvie helped him to finally understand his glorious purpose. And the Spider-Verse films are about Miles learning to accept that he is different from everyone else. It's a story about growing up as a middle-class black teenager in a rich white school. Even Logan is a type of multiversal what-if story. In that movie, James Mangold did not have to be beholden to any other X-Men stories. In fact, he kind of rejected them.
Maybe a quarter of it happened, and not like this.
Logan took place in a possible future, a possible universe, which freed the filmmakers up to craft an Oscar-nominated story. The Flash was at its best when Barry saw how his alternate, carefree self became kind of an annoying guy.
Happy?
Yeah.
This forces Barry to embrace his role as a hero and to let go of his selfish desires like saving his mother's life. You know, that movie is better than its box office. And shows like Rick and Morty have used the multiverse to create a central theme of nihilism. The multiverse is so vast and eternal that nothing seems to truly matter.
Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Come watch TV.
The question Rick and Morty poses is, if nothing matters, does that mean it's an excuse to treat everybody like shit? Or is it a reason to be decent to everybody? Everything and Everywhere All at Once was about family, and Evelyn realizing that she was strong, fierce, and capable of anything.
Let her go. 我做唔到啊爸，我唔會好似你咁對個女。
I mean, look, I can tell you all the reasons these different multiverse stories are great, even some within the MCU. But what I can't tell you is why the MCU is in its Multiverse Saga. What's the point? I mean, apart from the thrill of seeing characters from different universes interact, that thrill wears off when there isn't a deeper meaning. The Infinity Saga was about bringing people together, just like Thanos was trying to bring together the Infinity Stones. I mean, we're more than a third of the way through the Multiverse Saga, and we don't really know the theme yet. All I really know is that each movie should have a stronger story to tell. Don't get me wrong, MCU Phase 4 and 5 have had some incredible high points, and I do think that Marvel is getting its crap together and they're going to continue to provide the kind of entertainment that we expect from them. And multiversal storytelling is awesome. It gives us the ability to reach beyond that of our own world even more than we would have before with film and television. It takes this simple question of what if, and it dials it up to 11. But even the multiverse in all its glory cannot be the sole thing that makes a story great. Now, like I mentioned at the start of this video, the multiverse is a concept that we all understand, that we all relate to.
If you knew there was a universe where you were happy, wouldn't you want to go there?
After all, I mean, every imaginative story is a kind of multiversal story, where we imagine, what if a teenager got the powers of a spider? What if dinosaurs were brought back to life? What if a cop had to teach kindergarten? But multiverse stories work best when they force characters to confront their regrets. Like in the Spider-Man animated series when Peter Parker met a version of himself who saved Uncle Ben's life, and he turned out to be a massive tool.
I should be in charge of this group because I never lose. In my world, I'm a multi-billionaire. Aren't you?
Multiversal stories can resonate with audiences if they are about character first and crossovers second. People will not care about Kang destroying a universe on a CGI timeline, but they do care about Norman Osborn killing Aunt May.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. All right, workers, come out with your hands up!
Like, I am so excited for Secret Wars. I want to see characters from past Marvel movies team up together. But that team up has to go beyond the superficial thrill of seeing different Spider-Men together in the same frame. For example, this moment is cool. But Andrew redeeming his inability to save Gwen's life by saving MJ makes me cry every time.
Are you okay?
This is how multiverse stories succeed. They make us look back on our own lives, our own regrets, to look back and think, I could have been better. This is why the theme of the Multiverse Saga should be atonement. Characters grappling with their failures, their tragedies, their sins, and by maybe saving multiple versions of T'Challa, or Gwen, or Aunt May, maybe our heroes will finally achieve peace. Superhero stories are stories about wish fulfillment, not just the wish to fly or be strong, but the desire to fix your life. That is an ache that we all carry in our hearts, and that is the Multiverse Saga that I want to see on the big screen. So let me know, what are your thoughts on the Multiverse Saga? Are you still looking forward to it? Do you think it's destined to fail? Is it getting old? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.